Happy Monday, everybody. All right. It's been a month or so. I've been on to the videos. But anyways, today I'm going to be talking about conspiracy theory. And I think that we're entering no trust zone in America. That's what I see and I feel. And it's the pattern that I'm seeing in the world. And that's the fall, because without any trust, any truth, it's eroding. And that's how you have to look at it. And I believe that we've been conditioned slowly into this by not presenting evidence and then just believing that what is being told is the truth. And believing doesn't make it true. It doesn't. Evidence makes it true. And we have moved out of presenting evidence and just saying, oh, this person's a pedophile, or this person is with Russia, or this group is this way, and they're corrupting everything. Show us the evidence. Show us the evidence of 9/11. Who did it? There's actual evidence, and they're not showing us. And so therefore, what I believe is now the collective, us, humans, we need to dig and we need to present the evidence. And I know this because my story kind of started in 1998, which I'm going to go through. But the last 3 years, things have been happening to me since, the day that my husband left, when we were decided we're going to get a divorce. Things started to happen. And then I would call up Quentin and say, this happened. And then he would kind of not believe me. And I was like, but I saw it with my own eyes. It's kind of like the Charlie Kirk. We saw what happened. And we saw something is not correct. And, I saw what I saw. And let's not go back to the 1960s, because the 1960s, I will tell you this, all of humanity was brainwashed. They believed in everything that the government and the television told them, or the radio. They did. They never questioned one thing. So now we're not in the 60s any longer. We've advanced and we've evolved. And this is why I want to talk about the conspiracy today, because in the eyes of most conspiracy theorists, there's always going to be a Osama bin Laden, a Timothy McVeigh, or a Lee Harvey Oswald. Because crimes or justices are more than nefarious forces, and they remain in the shadows. And this is what we're getting used to kind of go along with. And the conspiracy theory, to me, is not presenting evidence. And I know this very, very well. And I have studied this and have kept my mouth shut about it. And I can't any longer. I have to come out to help people think differently and really look at, because we watch the YouTubers and the influencers who are getting paid, they say from Israel, but where does Israel get their money? They get their money from the United States. So essentially, it's washed over in Israel and then probably brought back to the U.S., to the military-industrial complex. And then we essentially, maybe they are getting paid by a foreign, the influencers by it looks like they're getting paid by a foreign entity, but really it's our taxpayers' money that's paying these propagandists to do this. And I'd like to tell a story about Richard Doty, who came out recently, who was with the Air Force for 35 years. And he came out and he just said that he worked 35 years in a department of deception. 35 years. And I used to listen to him on Guy, and I really believed what he was saying. And I let go of Guy because I was like thinking, well, how many other people have infiltrated the whole system? And it's more than what you think. But he said that he worked on deceiving our country and other countries by giving narrative that was a lie. And we have to look at that. It's time for us to wake up, and it's time for us to stop believing people that we think we like, yet are propagandists that are actually being paid to deceive us. Deception now is called mis and disinformation. Like he says, it's changed to mis and disinformation, but it used to be called deception. I look at it at same. So my point is, just because you believe it doesn't make it true. And without evidence, we have no case. This is what's wrong with our justice. People have been criminalized. They've been innocent. What the intelligence does, these agencies, they plant information on their computer, their devices, their phone, and so forth to convict them. But it's not necessarily true. We have to look at that. I've been able to forensic all my stuff because I'm not ever going to have anything planted on me, because I had a couple things happen to me here in Rhode Island. I went to somebody invited me for dinner, and they had another guest that came, and then when I had walked in, they said, "Oh, do you mind if I put your purse and your coat upstairs?" And I thought, yeah, okay, all right. But I had this weird feeling, and my feeling was right. And then the guests came in, and I saw the host summon them upstairs, and I saw the whole thing. And so I went upstairs, and he was in my bag. And I thought, what are you doing on my phone? Little by little, the guy is from New Zealand, and he did something. I didn't want to know, and I never want to know when somebody is, like crooking. I mean, that's how I look at criminal activity. And it made me very uneasy when he started to talk about it. It's kind of like this other lady, Diane Beaver, who showed me receipts of Polaroids of her husband standing between two foreign people with a wad of cash, and he's standing in the middle with a wad of cash. I can't be involved with people like that. There's no effing way, and no one should be. And right after that, the New Zealand guy, when he started talking about it, I was like, you know what? I don't want to be around these people. Like, is this whole area just like, I found out, the military industrial complex is out of this area. They build submarines, and, among a bunch of other things. So my point in saying this is you have to have evidence. And without, I'm talking truth, the service of truth and presenting evidence, not bullshit. And we have to stop doing that. So I'm going to be talking about William Cooper, and I think it's a good way to kind of lead off on this, because he kind of brought all this stuff in, and a lot of people, now we have like an army, let's call it that, an army of conspiracy theorists that are all over the net and are spreading things that aren't true. And in the last several years, we really have had a new wave of conspiracy theories, and they've gained a lot of traction on the internet. Alex Jones, about the Sandy Hook families and the Parkland crisis actors, and the chatter about the lizard people secretly running the world, right? And then I think is very dangerous was the Pizzagate and Q plus QAnon, because we saw all that online, and it's created in humanity which I believe a mass psychosis and kind of a paranoia, and it's a kind of a workaround of never telling the truth. We're always in the fog of war, okay? Never really presenting the evidence. And this is the fall of America. I'm going to tell you that right now. And the reason is we never get the evidence. Oh, it's coming. We're taking down a temple that's been around for a couple thousand years. It takes time. And then we see that, all the Democrats are completely, they say, are the ones that have taken down America. But the problem that I see is the neocons just changed their stripes and made it MAGA. And that's what I believe. And I see it that way. That's how I see it. They just repackaged it with a pretty little bow on the present and said, now we're MAGA and we're for America. We're patriots. So I want to talk about this, and it's going to be a couple parts because I don't want to go past 20 minutes because people don't have the mental capacity to listen more than even like 5 minutes. So I'm going to move on and start to talk about the William Cooper. And yet, in a way that you have to look at it like this. The false and toxic narratives take shape. They do. And they spread like a wildfire. And they owe something to these people like the William Cooper, because he was kind of the modern conspiracy theorist because Alex Jones got, I believe, when I read Cooper's books, it seems like Alex Jones took a lot of what he did and then, made it into the Alex Jones talk show. And because, see, if you read his books and you go back to his radio, the William Cooper's radio show, he talked about 9/11 coming a year in advance. And that's how I think Alex Jones, Alex Jones isn't a psychic. He got that from Cooper because they were friends and they would speak. So, when Carlson says Alex Jones is a psychic, it was on the 8th page of the New York Times 6 months prior that the trade buildings could come down. So if you're at all smart, you're reading and you're aware of what you're reading. So it's not about psychic per se. It's about reading the information and getting to the different outlets that, because it's always in plain sight, right? This is what we all talk about. Kind of like the Epstein, that Jeffrey Epstein. Why was he wearing a official naval uniform? Why was he doing that with the stripes and all that? How did he get a hold of that? Isn't that against the law? I sometimes think that Jeffrey Epstein was in the naval intelligence and no one's talking about that. And so I've often kind of thought that, like I've thought something, they love to push it on us. They love to push it right out in front and show who they are. But, oh no, that was a Halloween costume. They were dressed up for a party. I don't know about that. Something to look into. So William Cooper, he was the author of Behold the Pale Horse. And it's a strange book. And it's kind of, before I even get into William Cooper, I don't believe in everything he says, but I do like to read other, human stories. But I thought what was interesting, what he said in his book, was that it was required reading for the federal prison system. And when you got into prison, everybody was reading the book. And I thought, isn't this weird? But there's reasons for it, and I'm going to explain it. So interestingly, they read it. And William Cooper and his legacy of American culture is in some ways, it's significant because I believe that Cooper, now I'm not 100% sure, but he promoted a lot of various conspiracy theories. Now, looking back, why I tell you about the Richard Doty, he came out recently and said, yeah, I was working for the Deception Department, and I've been working for them for 35 years, and let me tell you, I was good at it. And that's when I got scared. I was like, good God, how many other conspiracy theorists are getting paid to do this in the military? And Cooper's family comes from the military, and Cooper was in the naval intelligence as well. So I want people to understand something, because we're in a weird reality, and conspiracy theories in general change reality of how we look at the world. And you need to understand this. It's very important. Like I said, I don't want you to forget something. Just because you believe in it doesn't make it true. And just because these influencers are talking, this and that and blah, blah, they're good at it. And they seem, they talk about God, and I'm a Roman Catholic, and, and God is everything. But then you kind of look at and you see holes, like a pot that has holes at the bottom, and it never can hold any type of sauce or water ever again. A lot of the influencers remind me of that. And because I see holes, like they'll say something like, the reason why I even got off of, I cut my Twitter, I closed it because I was sick of, I started seeing patterns, and I was like, good God, this person's a liar. He's spreading propaganda, and they're getting paid for it, which brings me to the Elon Musk goes into the back end with Doge or whatever it's called, and he's looking at all the paper trails of money, but then nothing happens. Was he erasing things, you know, like I often, oh yeah, okay, he said about some influencers getting paid the $7,000. They're getting paid a lot more than that, and we're paying for it, by the way. We're paying for it, not Israel or some other foreign entity. It all gets washed, the money, the taxpayers' money, and you have to realize that too. So my point is that it's so big, that it would take a lifetime to break it down, but I'm going to break it down in one thing that I want you guys to consider. If they can't present the evidence, and I'm talking about showing us it, even if it's gruesome, then it's a lie. They have to give us the evidence in order for it to be real. I want to see the trafficking. I know that I know people that have seen it, and that's the only reason why I know it's true. And a lot of it comes through the borders and through small private airports, and also submarines, believe it or not. That's why this whole thing about Venezuela and the boat with the drugs, that's a bunch of BS. Why would they use a boat when they have the submarine? When our military has tons of submarines, and they can go right over to Venezuela, pick up the drugs, and go under without ever being seen. So this is some of the things you have to start to think about. Like, this doesn't make sense. So, and getting back to the William Cooper, and I think I'm going to end this because it's already at 23 minutes, is that Cooper promoted various conspiracy theories, and such as JFK assassination, and that he believed that AIDS was created through our government, and the idea that the Illuminati assists the U.S. government in dealing with aliens. And well, now with the JFK, just a point I'm going to make, they said that the driver shot him, but he had said this way back, that the driver did it. And there's been countless books. So do you see how the mud and the fog is beginning to get thicker, and humans are starting to have zero trust in anything coming out of the FBI, the CIA, or whatever. I mean, DNI or whatever it's called. I mean, come on, you guys. You know what we can do? We can put in certain markers and start giving people, all military, all government officials, tests, and see how their mind is, and see if they're stable, and lie detector tests. We should be doing that mandatory. We give drug tests. Why not give lie detector tests? Let's see who's the liar. I'd love to do all the influencers, see everything about them. We should do it on the Charlie Kirk staff. Hire a lie detector and get the best ones. We have incredible markers that we can use to take care of this whole damn mess we're in. So if you're going to want to see things to get better, the first marker is going to be proof, evidence. And until we get that, we're going to have to do the digging. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to pick it up on the prison system about reading. It's kind of like mandatory to read the Cooper's book. And I'm going to tell you what I believe, which is really strange. It's really strange and it's interesting. And it's a brainwashing technique. We've all been brainwashed to believe conspiracy theories that are no proof. And we know that they manipulate videos, voices. They can create videos that makes it look like, you know, this person got hurt or whatever. I mean, you guys, this technology has been out longer. This just didn't come out. This has been out for a couple decades, maybe longer, but I know 2 decades. And they just haven't given it out yet. They've been using it on us. So, anyways, thanks for listening. I'll come out with part 2, and we will go through the prison system, which many prisoners saw Cooper as a hero, which I find incredible. And that because Cooper kind of played on the oppressed in the book, which the prisoners, they resonated with that because they felt oppressed, like a lot of like the black male readers, and resonated with the views. And that's another whole thing, because we've put in programs through different groups of people, even the Germans, and I'm going to get into that, to make them feel that they're oppressed, or to make them feel that they're not enough. And it's lowered IQs and lowered certain... Now, I'm not saying that they're victims, because we have the free will, but it's kind of like if you were raised in a family, like let's say a child is raised in a horrible family, you know, and just god-awful stuff has happened. It's going to take that individual coming out of that family as they grow into an adult to work really hard in flushing it all out. And we need to do that with America, with the United States of America. The reason why evidence and proof is so important, it'll rid a lot of the mass psychosis, and it'll rid a lot of the things that we feel. We know we're right about it, and then we're pushed down because we believe a certain way, and then people attack us. But that's not a reason to stop talking truth and to not stand up and speak, okay? And we've got to stick together on this. So, all right, I will put out part 2 later, and I'll see you all later. Thanks, everybody.